Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Egg Attack Brown Costume Wolverine by Beast Kingdom. And this is going to be the second Egg Attack figure that I've reviewed. The first one was Cyclops, and that's on my channel now. You can check that out. So far, I'm really enjoying this line based on these two figures, and they're a lot of fun, so I'm excited to check this guy out. But let's get into it, starting with the packaging. It has a very similar packaging to Cyclops, where it's like a reflective, kind of metallic type of look, and you get some cool Wolverine artwork right here in the front. It says Beast Kingdom exclusive up here, Marvel 80 years up here. On the side we get another shot of the figure. On the back we get some different poses of the figure and then some product details right here. And the packaging does look very nice. It's collector friendly. You could take the figure out, put it back in, and store it if you like. But that's it for the box. Let's take a look at the figure. So now we have this little guy out of the box, and this figure is looking really nice. I especially like the way that the costume fits very tightly to the figure itself, and there's no sagging or anything like that. It all looks very good, and the stitching on the side is very well done. As you can see, it's very clean and nicely hidden. And as you can see, the brown material and the orange material is a little bit different. The orange material is your traditional cloth, and the brown material is some kind of overlay. So much like with Mezco figures, I'm a little worried as to how well this stuff will hold up, but I guess time will tell. Just handling it, it doesn't give me the impression that it's going to crack or anything. It actually looks really good. It is a little stretched on the ball joint here, as you can see, so it looks a little bit lighter, but it still doesn't look like it's going to crack or anything. So it looks really nice. Check that out. And then we have the belt here. That's an actual belt. That's really cool with the belt buckle. I can't tell if that's metal or plastic. I think it's plastic. But it all looks really nice. Then you've got the trunks that look good. And the trunks feel like they're the same material as this stuff. So that looks good. And then down here you have his little boots. Then for the arms, there's the little, I don't know what these things are called, but you know, the little things where his claws pop out of. What are those things called on his gloves? Do they have a name? Who knows? But anyways, I like how the pegs are covered on here and they're not exposed. So even though his arms don't have cloth on them or anything, it still looks very nice and clean without crazy peg holes or anything. So really good stuff there. Oh, we got some more stitching in the back. Again, it doesn't look too bad though. It looks very tight and clean. So look at that. That's dope. And then the head sculpt is really nice. He does come with multiple heads and things like that, but we'll look at that stuff in a second here. But I love how the texture of the black ear things is different than the head. This is just smooth plastic, but this has some like texture to it, as you can see there. Then you just have the all white eyes. You got the grumpy Wolverine face. And I like the skin tone has like a nice shade to it. It has like a cartoonish kind of effect to it. So that's all really good stuff. Look at that. And what's really cool about these Egg Attack figures is even though they are their own weird stylized thing, they still really feel true to the character and they capture the spirit of the character. So even though this thing has a big goofy head, it's still one of the best looking Wolverine figures that I've seen and one of the most comic book accurate in terms of costume details. Obviously not the big old head and weird proportions, but just the costume design and details. I don't think there's a more accurate Wolverine figure out there. So man, yeah, this thing is just awesome. I love the way that it looks. And as for accessories, Wolverine doesn't come with as much as Cyclops did, but he does come with a lot of cool stuff. So let's start off with the hands. The first pair is a set of fists. And next up he has a set of open hands. And then last but not least, of course, he comes with a set of fists that have the claws popped out. And these are definitely some of the best claws that I've seen in this scale. As you can see, they actually look metal, and at first I thought they were, but it turns out they're just plastic with a metallic type of paint job. The only thing I'd say that's wrong with them is that they look a little dark, but still they look very nice, and they're, like I said, some of the best claws that I've seen in this scale. Here's a look at the Marvel Legends claws, and you know, these things aren't horrible, but they're plastic and that's obvious. And I always say that the Mezco claws are some of the best Wolverine claws that we've seen, and I would say the Mezco ones are still better, but these Egg Attack ones are right up there with them. But check out the Mezco ones. They look shiny and like actual metal. These ones look like actual metal too, but they're just a little too dark, that's all. But they still look very cool. And he does come with a few different facial expressions. First off, we have just the standard mean mugging Wolverine face that looks really good. And then he does have a screaming facial expression that looks very good as well. And it's very easy to switch out his facial expressions. You just have to pop his head off, and then the mouth just comes right out like that. But it still stays in there very securely, so you don't have to worry about it just falling out. And then you could just stick that in there and there you go. And there's actually like a groove, so you could kind of get your finger in there and just pull it out without a huge problem, you know? Lastly, we have an unmasked Wolverine head that looks really good, and once again, it perfectly captures the spirit of Logan as a character. I just love the super angry facial expression that we have going on, and it's very well done. Even though it has like an animated type of effect to it, it still looks really good. And check out his hair right there, that looks nice. You have the sideburns, and the sideburns look cool, but one thing you have to be aware of is you don't want to pose the figure with the sideburns resting onto the material, because yesterday I left it like that for a couple hours, and then when I looked at it, there was indentations in the material. So you have to be aware of that, and just don't keep them posed for too long with those things resting on the material. You don't want to damage that stuff. But other than that, I have no complaints with this head, and I think it looks really, really cool. And then it also has this cowl down type of thing, and this is a loose piece that comes off obviously, but this looks really good too. Check that out. And another cool thing about this unmasked head is that you can remove the hair, and then you could have like a weird bald Wolverine if you want. And you could also take off the back of the head, and then you have articulated eyes. Look at that. That is super cool. And they're not that hard to manipulate because the head is so big. There's a lot of room to get your hands in there and mess around with it. A lot of times when figures have articulated eyes, they come with tools and things like that to make the eyes work. But in this case, it's not necessary. You could just get your finger in there and do your thing, you know. But yeah, that's a really fun feature to this figure. You could add a lot of attitude to your shots with him looking in weird directions and just messing around with it. Messing around with articulated eyes is always fun because you could get your figures to do a bunch of weird goofy stuff, you know. And he does come with the stand that you're able to display the figure on, and this is probably how I'll have them on my shelf. I think these stands look really cool, and they definitely prevent the figure from falling. So it does look nice. It says X-Men right in there. It says Wolverine right in front here. So yeah, these things are awesome. Okay, so now for some quick size comparisons. And I already talked about it in my Cyclops review, but I know that Wolverine isn't really in scale with Cyclops how he should be. Wolverine should be a lot shorter, but when it comes to the Egg Attack stuff, I know that they're their own stylized line, so I really don't mind if these guys are the same size. As long as the bigger characters are much bigger than the normal size guys, I'm fine with the scale that they have going on. So here they are together, and I think they look really cool. And I know it really doesn't matter how Wolverine compares to a lot of other lines, because these guys are just going to be alone on a shelf with all Egg Attack figures. But still, just to give you an idea of his size, I'm going to compare him to a bunch of different things. So here we go. So here he is alongside the Marvel Legends Wolverine from the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure wave. Next up, we have him alongside the Mezco 112 Collective Classic Wolverine. And even though I really appreciate that Mezco did their own thing with this version of Wolverine, they did their own style, they made a bunch of different changes to the design, and I think that's cool and it's ambitious and stuff, but when I see this figure, this Egg Attack figure with basically the same concept as a Mezco figure, it really makes me wish that Mezco did a more classic approach to Wolverine. They could have given us one of the best Wolverine figures ever, and it seems like it's possible with what Egg Attack did here. You know, Mezco could have done the exact same thing. I don't think that the Egg Attack is necessarily doing anything here that Mezco can't. I wish Mezco would have taken this route. I think that would have been awesome, but there they are together. And then now here we have them alongside the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap, and then Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man. Here we have them with the Disney Toy Box Genie figure. Next up we have the Mighty Mugs Galactus. Then here we have the Figure Arts Michelangelo, Marvel Universe King Hulk. Here we have him with one of my favorite Wolverine villains, and this is the Marvel Legends Omega Red.
Okay, so here's Wolverine of the Marvel Legends Nightcrawler.
And then here he is next to the all-new, all-different Wolverine. I think that's where she appeared in that line of comics. Either way, it's X-23 as Wolverine. And then now here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Sunfire. And to finish out these comparisons, for all you X-Babies fans, we have him here alongside the Marvel Legends Mojo Build-A-Figure. And as for the articulation, he has the exact same setup as Cyclops, so I was equally impressed with Logan here as I was with Mr. Summers. So let's get into it here. His head is able to move side to side. You get some really nice tilt to it. Check that out, that's awesome. And then you could get him to look up to right there, which is decent. And then he could look down to right there. And as you can see, there's actually movement at the neck. But, you know, it's not all that useful, but it's definitely there. But I really like the amount he's able to tilt. That's awesome. And then for the torso, you get a little bit of crunch. Not too much, but an okay amount. And then you could, let's see, get it back to about right there. Once again, not too much, but it's decent. Get a little side to side. That's good. And then you get some twist right there. And it seems like he has a mid-torso cut and then possibly a waist cut, but it's a little hard to tell. Actually, yeah, it's in there. Check that out. But once again, you don't get much movement out of it. because the cloth is in the way, but there's definitely points of articulation in there, so that's very cool. And then he does have these awesome butterfly shoulders. Check those out. Look at that. You could get them flexing and looking crazy. That's awesome. These butterfly shoulders are super dope. Look at that. That's really cool. And look at the range, because it does have a big cutout right here for the plastic, and you could sometimes see it if you pull his arm too far back, or you know, you could kind of get it in a weird position where it looks kind of weird, but for the most part it's very useful to have that big cutout. So that's really good stuff. I like that a lot. And then he does have ball jointed shoulders, and Wolverine's joints aren't as tight as Cyclops's, but they're still pretty tight. They kind of still make me nervous. Can't really get his arm too high up, because then the cloth starts to move around on the ball joint a little bit. So you kind of want to prevent that. But yeah, you know, you get some decent range in the shoulder joints there. Just got to be a little careful. But yeah, he's got ball joints, and then you can bring his arms out to the side. You have upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which are really nice, a swivel at the wrist, and it's a ball joint, so you get a lot of good movement there. And I will say that I feel like Wolverine's legs work a little better than Cyclops's did. Oh, look at that. Is it? Oh, once again, it tricked me. Oh no, look at that. It does have a drop down deal. Oh no, it's still hard to tell. I don't know, whatever. I thought the same thing with Cyclops, and then I never went on. Oh yeah, look at, there you go. It does have the drop down hips. Whoa, that's cool. But again, I'm a little scared to mess with these too much since I can't really see what's going on. But yeah, you know, they drop down a little bit, so I guess they do drop down on Cyclops too. Look at that, that's cool. That's super crazy. Anyways, hold on, sorry guys. Let's see what we could do here. So his leg could only go forward about that much, even with that drop down feature, but that's crazy that that's even in there. And then you could bring them back to right there. And like I said, they drop down, come up, that's awesome. And then you have the upper thigh swivel, double jointed knee. Doesn't get that much range because the cloth kind of gets bunched up in there, as you could see. Let's see here. You don't really have any movement there at the boot, but you get a swivel at the foot because his foot is on a ball joint just like his hand. And then you get a little bit of tilt to it. Get a bunch of general movement. He can move his foot up to about right there, move him down to right there, and then he has the toe articulation. So cool, really good amount of articulation on Logan here, and I feel like you know, it works a little better than it did on Cyclops, and I don't really know why, because they both have the exact same setup, but for some reason I get a little bit more range out of Wolverine's joints. But yeah, I really like this articulation setup. Okay, so overall, just like with Cyclops, I'm blown away by this thing. I think it's such a fun Wolverine figure. I like all the different accessories that he comes with. The multiple hands are always nice, but the thing that really makes this guy fun is all the different facial expressions that he comes with. The articulated eyes are awesome, and he's just a really well done Wolverine figure. Probably one of my favorite Wolverine figures. Even though it's stylized and it's, you know, doing its own thing, it still just really screams the character, and it really has the personality of Wolverine, especially in the facial expressions. I think that's really what sells it. But the costume itself is very comic book accurate, even though it's like a stylized thing. So yeah, this figure is so much fun, and this whole line is very exciting. I can't wait to get some more X-Men Egg Attack figures. And like I said before, I'm probably going to limit myself to the Spider-Man stuff and the X-Men stuff, and maybe a couple of MCU ones every now and then, and maybe the Batman ones, because they do have a Batman and Joker coming out, and maybe you know, a bunch of them, but we'll see. But I do like these figures a lot. Both of them are awesome, and they're just really fun to have. My only gripe that I have with these figures is that they do cost a little too much. These ones cost me $95, and they did come with a t-shirt, which is cool, and it softens the blow a little bit, but for the most part, I think that is a little too much. I still paid for them. I'm still happy I made the purchase because they're both a lot of fun, but, you know, I'd like to get more of these figures, but, you know, at that price point, it's going to be a little tough, so I really am going to try to limit myself, even though there's a lot of good ones coming out, and I do wish that maybe they could, you know, get to a more reasonable price point, but you know, that's probably never gonna happen. But still, they're great figures, and if you could afford to collect them and there's something that you want to focus on, I think that people will be happy buying them because they're a lot of fun, they look awesome, and they're different. You know, they look really cool on a shelf together, and you know, at Comic-Con there was a lot of great displays with a bunch of these Egg Attack figures, and they looked awesome. They're very impressive, and they're very well done. So you know, I do hope to get as many as possible, but we'll see. Anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching.
If you liked this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up.
And please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Peace.